Hey, what's up? Welcome to Project Freelance. My name is Kay Anagonio, and this is the podcast for you if you are a freelance entrepreneur, whether you are a photographer, a videographer, if you want to learn more about SEO, about marketing, if you make things, if you write books, whatever it is that you do as a freelancer, I want you to listen to this podcast because I think there is a lot of valuable information you can get out of it. Every week I have a different guest on from a different industry to talk about what it is that they do as a freelancer. So this week we have Mike Volkin on, and he is a marketing expert. So I'm going to be picking his brain about marketing, and we're going to chat about how he got started, what he does to make money, and how he gives back to his audience and his community, and how to find your niche market. This is super important stuff in this episode. So buckle yourselves in. It's about to get intense. You're going to learn a lot. I am super excited about this episode. But first, I got to let you know, the digital version of my book, No Tracers, An Urban Explorer's Diary, is available on my website. If you guys want the digital or physical version of it, you can get it there, and we'll ship it out to you. We'll get it over to you, and I would love for you guys to get your hands on a copy of it. If you do order it, a physical copy, I will sign it for you, and I will put an exclusive print in there as well. Thank you guys in advance for picking those up. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get them out into a couple stores, so you might be seeing them on shelves pretty soon. Super excited about that. I definitely asked Mike some tips about how to market a new book. So I'm going to give you guys a little advertisement. I have been trying to get sponsors for the podcast, and the best way to get sponsors for the podcast is to show them my incredible skills at doing voiceover. So enjoy this ad. I'm not sure if the security guard intentionally sent us up to the top of this abandoned 17-story hospital or not, but part of me thinks that he knew exactly why we were there, to capture the beauty of this medical facility, left to collect dust, and he let us in.
What? Dude, no fucking way. This is fucking terrifying. Oh my god. Yeah, I have to get down there. I can't believe people fucking did this shit. This is terrifying. I would never go to class. Ever. I would never go to class. Fuck that. Fuck going to class. Fuck walking down the stairs.
I got an email when the video started gaining traction from someone who works in the hospital, commending me on getting in and asking how I did it. To this day, I still think we got lucky, and I hope that that security guard saw my video from that day. I'd give him a copy of this book if I ever met him again. No Tracers, An Urban Explorer's Diary. Use code SPOOKY2019 for 10% off your order. So, before we get into this, I want to let you guys know that I actually was on Mike's podcast, Freelancer School. If you guys want to check that out, I will put a link down in the description for you. We talk about how I got started in photography and video, and we go into how I built my business. So if you guys are interested in my story, head over there, head over to Freelancer School and listen to that episode. But without further ado, let's jump into this episode. Mike, please introduce yourself and what you do to the audience.
My name is Mike Volkin. I own Freelancer Masterclass. I'm the lead instructor there as well. As a freelancer, I'm what's called a fractional CMO. So I will, CMO stands for Chief Marketing Officer. So I will get hired by a company, usually a startup or one that's recently been funded, and I will either start a marketing department, help them with strategy, help them with processes and efficiency, or train their existing staff.
So do you mostly work with bigger companies, bigger like corporations, or are you working with people that are solopreneurs as well?
Yeah, good question. I'd say about 80% of my work is for companies under 10 million a year in revenue. I rarely work with solo entrepreneurs. Those would fit in the criteria of my entrepreneur coaching clients, which I'm also an entrepreneur coach. So I do that with solo entrepreneurs, or most of the time actually with entrepreneurs that are partners that own a business together. Usually there's some kind of decision that needs to be made between who's going to divvy up what work. And unfortunately, sometimes that turns into some kind of counseling because one partner has an issue with another partner, that kind of thing. But yeah.
So how did you get into marketing in the first place? Like, what was your start into the whole freelancing world?
Yeah, I rarely get asked that question. I was in the army, and I was stationed overseas in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and I decided to write a book called The Ultimate Basic Training Guidebook, and this prepares recruits for military basic training. So I know this has nothing to do with marketing, but I'm going to get into that. I'm just setting the story. So I decided to. It was just really written on napkins and scrap paper and stuff. But when I got back, I decided to publish it, and a publisher had picked it up, and then I quickly determined that, hey, I should have a website. And then the website started bringing in orders, and then I said, oh, you know what, maybe I should do this and this and this, and I started doing these different marketing tactics. And the more I did, the more sales I had. So it was cool to wake up and I saw, 20 orders, 50 orders in my inbox. It went on to become a bestseller. And since then I've written 4 more books, but that's how I really got started into marketing, was like, just from my own books that I wrote.
Wow, that's amazing. Can we talk about the army a little bit? I know it has nothing to do with like freelancing necessarily, but like, what did you do? What was your job in the army?
Yeah, well, I was trained as a chemical operations specialist. So I was trained on nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare. And during that whole time, with Saddam Hussein, they had thought that he had nuclear weapons, and to some case he did, but just not like mass destruction nuclear weapons. So I was deployed there to help find some of the stash. However, my particular unit did not do that. We got repositioned several times when we were down there, and I wound up mostly doing security like 90% of the time. So anybody can really do security as long as your trigger finger works and you have both eyes that work pretty well. So that's what I did when I was down there.
Wow, that's incredible, man. I have a friend that's doing military police security right now, so yeah, I totally get what you mean. But she's stationed in Hawaii, so I mean she's not having a horrible time.
Yeah, that's a pretty sweet setup they got down there.
When you got this first book finished and it became a bestseller, did you expect that to happen? Like, what was your expectations when you wrote the book?
Yeah. So I joined the Army 3 days after September 11th. I quit my job, and I just realized, hey, I want to serve my country. And it was kind of a whim decision. I didn't know what I was doing when I entered basic training. So I went in totally unprepared. I had some really stupid mistakes. And I realized once I got deployed shortly after I graduated basic training in specialty school that I could have prepared a lot more for drill sergeants. I could have prepared a lot more for fitness. And so I just started writing down notes about everything I could have done to prepare for basic training. And then the other soldiers started chiming in. And at the end, I had this long notebook and a lot of scrap material. I just started putting it all together. So that's what really got me into writing the book. And it's just the fact that my motivation was I didn't want other recruits to go through basic training like I did, totally unprepared.
Wow, that's amazing that you just made that and you had the collaboration of your teammates. That's absolutely amazing. So you had this bestseller, and then you go on to write another book and 4 more books. Like, what are the other books about?
Yeah. Well, every time I wrote a book, I was like, I'm never writing this book, a book again. But and I'm actually working on a book right now. But in any case, to answer your question, the guidebook was first, and then I had sold 60 or 70,000 copies after the first couple of years, and it became an Amazon bestseller in the military category and won the Military Book Club gold medal or something like that. And I started winning all these awards. So then I started getting all these emails like, okay, I've read the book, but there's a lot of exercises in there. Like, how do I know if I'm doing them right? So my second book was called The Ultimate Basic Training Workbook. So the first one was The Ultimate Basic Training Guidebook. And so now people were buying 2 books instead of 1. They wanted the guidebook, and then they wanted the workbook to apply the knowledge. So I'm like, wow, this is cool. So it's almost like a cross sell. So then I started getting, just listening to your customers. They said, you know what? I forgot a lot of stuff when I went to basic training because I talked to them after they got back. And so then I wrote a survival book, which is something you can carry in the cargo pocket of your basic training uniform, something to remind you of some of the key things that you needed to do and take notes and stuff. So then I had 3 books all around basic training. So instead of having a $16 book for sale, now people were buying $90 worth of books. 2/3 of my customers were buying more than one book. So that's when I really started getting excited about marketing, and then everything started to take off from there.
So when you first started to market your stuff, did you have anybody to pick their brain when it came to marketing? Did you figure everything out yourself? What was your process like for that?
Yeah, no, I just, as guerrilla marketing, I just did it all myself. I started reading blogs. I knew I had to get good with SEO, search engine optimization. So that was really the first foray into marketing that I did, was I wanted to optimize my website. And then I started reaching out to big newsletters like military.com and goarmy.com. And I started writing basic training articles for them. And then, I realized, hey, military.com's got a newsletter of over 1 million people. They featured my article once and they broke my site. Like, they had so many hits coming to my site. And so then I just started getting really passionate about like partnership marketing, SEO, and all this other stuff. And it really just kind of spiraled into like, okay, now I want to start a company and I know this and this about marketing. And then, it's constant learning. It's just never being satisfied with where you're at. And so I put on my calendar, which I live and die by, I put an hour a day of marketing. I just want to learn something new every day. And marketing's tough. It's a tough industry because it's always changing. If I did the SEO tactics I did 8 years ago when I wrote my book, then it would be totally obsolete. It wouldn't make any difference. So I just have, which I still do, an hour a day of learning marketing, whether I'm reading a book or reading a blog or something like that.
That's awesome. I just had a book come out. I just launched my first book. I made a photography book about the abandoned places that I like to explore. So it's photography and it's also like little diary entries of the exploration and my thoughts on it. And so right now I'm trying to figure out how to market this book and like where to put it and what to do. Do you have any tips for somebody who, like myself, just launched their first book?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing, congratulations, by the way, the first thing you want to do is you want to make it available everywhere books are sold, right? So format it for Kindle if you can. And I'm assuming it has great pictures and photos in there, right? So, if there's any kind of stock photography website that'll help you sell your book or something like that. And then really understand what type of customer buys your book. Offer like a few pages for like Amazon's look inside the book. And if you can, on your website where you're selling it, offer these free chapters or whatever in exchange for some information. So other than email, you can get their first name, last name, city, and you can find them online, follow them on social media. I know it sounds manual, but if you do that to a few hundred people, you'll really start to see a pattern of what type of people will most likely buy your book. And you can group them by age, gender, maybe a particular interest that they like. But the more you know your audience, the people exactly who will buy your book, the more you'll be able to sell with little effort.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. That's very helpful. Like I'm trying to get it formatted like digital downloads, all that kind of stuff, because I realize that not everyone wants to spend what it costs to get the physical copies, so I'm trying to make it more available for people in their price market. So thank you for those tips.
Yeah.
So
no problem.
After the books, like what came next?
Yeah, so then I just started having people asking me if I could help them with their marketing. At first, it was just very small jobs. Like there was a local fitness instructor who had purchased my book because there was a couple chapters on military fitness, and he helped a lot of vets. And he's like, "Hey, can you help me expand my fitness, my personal training business?" So I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I have a full-time job, but I'll help you." And then I found Upwork, which at the time was Elance. And then I started just putting myself on Upwork saying I have, these SEO skills and I can help you with your marketing your book. And then it just kind of blossomed into just bigger and better things over the years. And now I'm, getting hired for a few $1,000s a month per client, helping them with starting marketing departments and spend their investment funds. It's just, at very high level. So it went from like, can you help me with the technical aspects of SEO and looking at my website to help me lead a department and create strategy. So it just kind of blossomed from there.
When you do like SEO and all this kind of stuff for other people, when they first came to you, you did it on Elance, which is now Upwork. Are you still using Upwork to get clients?
I am, yeah. About I'd say 20-30% of my business comes from Upwork. Amazing.
So I do videography and editing and photography. So I'm about the same. I get about 20-30% of my work from Upwork. And I've been on there as well since Elance. Have you ever run into, because this is something personally I've dealt with and I've made podcasts about this, scams on Upwork. Have you ever dealt with anything like that, like getting scam clients?
Yeah, I used to. Now I kind of know what I'm looking out for. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm on the homepage of Upwork, um, and I've spent a lot of time testing algorithms. I'm a scientist by nature. I used to be before a marketer. I was an environmental consultant, and I have a master's degree in science. So naturally, I like to test things. So I'm always testing something on Upwork. And one of the things that I've learned about Upwork in terms of scam clients is you never ever accept a client who doesn't pay at least 50% up front. I almost always get 100%, but 50% up front, no exceptions. I was scammed a couple times, and I don't know if it was intentional or they were just bad clients and didn't understand how freelancers work. But now I don't accept any client with at least 50% down. And and Upwork does, even though they hide their name and company name in most occasions, you can find out how many people they paid, what their average hourly rate was, and what their feedback was. So before I even apply for a job, I go to the client page, and on the right hand side in the margin there, it shows you how many times they've hired, and if they're rated 4 out of 5 stars. I won't work with anybody who's less than 4 out of 5 because there's some kind of issue there. And then what their average hourly rate does. So if I know that they've had 200 jobs they've hired for in the past, but the average hourly rate is $17 an hour, they're probably not going to go with someone like me who charges over $200 an hour, sometimes over 300. So I know that that's probably not going to be a good client. So always just look at the clients first and check out their reviews. I rarely, if ever, work for a brand new client that is new to Upwork because I'm not one to teach. I don't have the time to teach them the new system. And so that's kind of my criteria there. And I haven't been scammed in 4 or 5 years now.
That's awesome. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's important that people know how to use the platforms that they're using. And especially when it comes to things like that, like getting scammed, like it's something that happens to people. And, I think it's important that we talk about that. How did you come up with your hourly rate? Like, where did you start at and how did you grow your value?
Yes, that's one of my biggest questions at Freelancer Masterclass. All the freelancers want to know right away, what should I set my hourly rate at? Well, there's a lot of different answers, but I like to keep it simple. First of all, if you have a job right now and you're looking to become a freelancer full-time and you want to quit your job, what you do is you take your hourly rate, you take your yearly salary and you divide it by 2,080. That's the amount, 2,080 is the amount of work hours per year. And that's pretty much what you're making now. Okay. And then you should take and divide that by half because you have to assume you're not going to be full of work 8 hours a day and you have to spend some time prospecting. So if you divide that by half, that's going to give you your hourly rate on what you should at least have a baseline to charge them to fulfill your existing salary and what you're making now. That's your goal, right? Another general concept is to take what you want. Like let's just say you want $100,000 a year and you just take off 3 zeros. And then if you take off 3 zeros off your yearly goal, that is a good indication of what your hourly rate is or should be. In terms of what you're worth, if you want to set your price on what you're worth, what you can do is set your hourly rate to whatever you feel comfortable, whether it's $30 or $40 an hour. And then if you get full of work, and then you increase it 10 or 20%, even 50%. And then as you get full of work at that new rate, you just increase it again and again and again until you find yourself leveling off with new clients coming in. A good way to measure that is when you get invited to jobs on Upwork. You get that invitation to interview email. I track how many I get of those each month. And if it starts to go down, then I know that my price would be too high for at least Upwork clientele. But then I also balance it out with the amount of work I have on my plate right now. So if I literally can't hold any more clients, which like right now I'm at, I will go to Upwork and I'll increase my hourly rate. And you should always be seesawing your hourly rate, especially with clients you don't like to work with. If clients are more trouble than you originally anticipated, once your original project ends, you should raise your rate on them.
That's a great idea, especially the kind of stuff like that you're not too fond of working on anymore. That totally makes sense. So what, like, as far as your education went, as far as learning marketing and SEO and all these things, you read a lot of blogs, you said. Were you also like watching YouTube videos at this time, listening to podcasts? What were some of the specific blogs? What were some of the specific places you went for your information?
Yeah, good question. Because back in those days when I was really learning about marketing, I was reading a lot of blogs. I didn't really absorb information via video. And now it's interesting because it's kind of switched. everybody absorbs information in different ways. Some people like to read, some people like to watch videos. I'm more of a video guy now, so when I spend my hour a day learning, I'm almost always on YouTube, with the rare exception of like, a weekend morning or something like this morning when I had my daughter and she was being fussy. She's all contagious, and I just couldn't watch a video, and I was just reading a blog while I was caring for my daughter. So it really just depends on the way you like to absorb information. Back when I was first learning about marketing, we also didn't have cool websites like Udemy and Teachables where you have a focused course on a particular topic. Back in those days, I would have ate that up. So if all the freelancers right now listening are interested in learning a particular topic, I don't work for Udemy. I have a course that's called the Six Figure Freelancer there that's actually free if you want to watch it. But really, it's a matter of like for $10 or whatever they sell a course for, you can get a really good focused series of step-by-step courses on just about any topic, and it's super cheap and it's a really cool way to learn by experts.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really good value out there. So thank you for sharing a little bit about where you got your content from. Right now I'm studying for my drone certification, so YouTube has been, vital for that. And I also did like a kind of like a Teachable Udemy kind of course for that. So it's been super helpful, And so yeah, thank you for sharing that. So you had a full-time job while you were trying to supplement your income when it came to this marketing stuff. What was your full-time job?
Yeah, I was a scientist. I was an environmental scientist, and I didn't really like the job. I would be out in the field testing. I'd be in the lab testing. I was a water chemist, and it was fun. I liked to travel. I was in the airport 4 days a week, sometimes 6 actually. It was a lot of traveling, and it got real tiring at the end. And really, my bosses and my boss's bosses, owners of company, they weren't that wealthy. I was like, is this really where I want to be in 40 years? I had these visions of myself of being philanthropic, being able to donate to charity and spending my life giving to causes and maybe even starting a charity myself. And I just didn't see that. I saw them driving, less than stellar cars, and they lived in, less than stellar houses. Just basically didn't match up with my vision. So I'm like, you know what? I have a lot of passions. It's more than just science. Maybe I should look into what my other passions are. And I always had an entrepreneur spirit. I started my first company when I was 19. So I'm like, well, maybe I should, start a company or something and see where it goes. And that much more closely aligned with my aspirations. So that's where I decided to go for a career change then and started to put my feelers out there doing freelance work.
And how long did it take you to go from doing it, on the side to doing it full time?
Way too long. It was about 6 years, maybe 7 years before I determined I wanted to do full-time freelance work. And before I determined that I really hated, working in an office. There was one particular instance I could tell you about that really put me over the edge. But if I had the resources that I have now, like I have Freelancer Masterclass, if I had something like that back in the day, I would have switched over in less than a year. But I didn't have stuff like that back in 8 years ago, so I didn't have those options. So I just had to do it myself and just kind of build up my book of clientele.
Tell me, let's go back to your books a little bit more. Tell me about the book you're writing right now. I'm kind of curious to know what you're working on now.
Yeah, well, I have Freelancer Masterclass, right? It's an online school, and so I'm turning that into a book. So it's a step-by-step book on for mostly geared towards people who are doing part-time freelancing or even want to go out on their own and just hate working in an office or having a day job. I'm writing a book specifically designed for them that teaches them how to get the confidence and the knowledge to go out on their own and live the life that a freelancer lives that people envy so much.
That's great, man. I love that you're giving back in that way, in that educational way. And so let's talk a little bit more about the course, like some of the things that you may go over in the course, if you want to touch on it a little bit, just to kind of give a little brief of it.
Sure, I will. It's a 10-module step-by-step course, and it's not geared towards writers or marketers or anything. Freelancer Masterclass is designed for any freelancer to be able to understand how to bring in clients, how to be efficient with their work, how to keep clients longer. All the stuff that I wish I knew when I was a part-time freelancer struggling to become full-time. I made a course, and it's more than just, here, watch these videos. We have small group cohorts that meet every Sunday. You're in a group with other students, And we all meet on Sunday to review the week's material and talk about what's coming up for the week. You have access to the instructors. There are homework assignments. For example, for this week, there's about 3 hours of videos to watch, and there's a couple homework assignments. But we also give tons of helpful resources, all these spreadsheets that I use, all these tools and resources to manage clients or bring clients in. Like, I give away all that stuff, all those secrets, all that stuff, contracts, freelancer contracts that have cost me, I don't even know how much, thousands and thousands of dollars over the years to account for any kind of issue that you might get screwed by clients. It's all in these various contracts. We give those away. And it's all free. And the way I make money is that if you upgrade to a premium membership, we have access to me and I go through your Upwork profile. I go through your website, all your communication, like your unique selling proposition, your value prop, your brand, all that stuff. So that is an upgraded fee. But even without that, for free, you can get access to all the courses, all the material. You'll get assigned a small group cohort. I just wanted to make sure that everybody lives the life that they want to. It's kind of like my way of giving back, even though I take a lot of time to coach people and I make no money. It gives me joy knowing that I'm helping so many people get out of this rat race of having to go through a commute, go to work an 8 to 5 job, not having to work out of your house, and all that stuff that people envy in my job. I want to be able to teach that to people throughout the world.
And how do you find time to do all of this stuff? You know, how do you have time to do your marketing stuff and then coach people and then do the podcast and then teach this stuff for free, or like, what, you know what I mean? How do you find the time? How do you make the time? And you have a kid. Like, how do you organize your life?
I know. Yeah, my time is very tight, and I live and die by my calendar. So if you're one of those people that have a lot of things going on, you never feel like you have enough time. I always have my daily dose of caffeine. I'm high energy, and I always have goals, you know? So I live and die by my calendar, and my calendar has not only stuff I have to do for my clients, but also has goals. And yes, I do take a day off. It's rare. I always clear out my inbox before the end of the day. And I make sure, actually, to be honest with you, ever since I launched Freelancer Masterclass, I've been taking on less billable work for clients. But I'm at the point of my career where I'm comfortably reaching my goals. I don't need to be full of work as much as I used to when I was in my 20s and 30s. I'm 43 now. So I have that time. It's kind of like my charity, my donation time, to be able to work with students for free and help them get out of the rat race. Because I know it's going to come back to me at the end when I look back at my career and I say, yeah, you know what? I helped, thousands of people get out of their dead-end jobs and live the life that they want to live, and do the work that they want to do and have a fulfilling life themselves, just from me teaching what's already in my head, just so I can, share my experience. So that's kind of my way of giving back.
Man, thank you so much. Like, this information is super valuable. I'm going to ask you something that's kind of personal, but I'm curious. And because, I mean, you're in your 40s. I'm 26 right now. Where were you at 26, like, financially speaking? I'm just curious because I know that, some people don't like to talk about money, but I mean, I think that financially speaking, trying to be a freelancer in California, it's expensive out here, like, where were you at?
Yeah, well, I was in 26 is when I just was like 3 years into California. I had moved out here to Northern California about when I was 23, and I was living in Sacramento at the time. So this is the time where I was working full time and just starting to get into marketing my books and stuff. So as a scientist, I was making under $50,000 a year, and I was making maybe $1,000 a month on top of that, doing part-time work here and there. So I'd get home from my job, luckily if at 5 o'clock, and I'd work the weekends and I'd hustle my book and try to get some clients. So it was literally a 7-day-a-week job, but I loved the freelance work part of it. Like that was my time off, if anything. And at the time, I had 2 awesome Labrador, so I'd spend some time hiking in the redwoods with them as much as I could. And so it was rare when I just had nothing to do. I don't think I could think of a day in my 20s where I could just had a total day off and a vacation. So yeah, I mean, in my 20s, I was hustling. I mean, there has to be a time in your life and you're hustling, and that's what gets rid of 97% of the people. To be honest with you, that want to be freelancers, want to be entrepreneurs that just aren't. There has to be that time that those 3% of people that make it through that hustle, that break through that mold and say, all right, I'm making consistently 100, 200,000 a year. I'm working my own hours. I'm working with the clients I want to work with. And most people don't make it through that because that's what makes rich people rich, wealthy people wealthy. And I don't just mean money-wise, I mean fulfillment in their life. That's what makes them that way, is because they're willing to break through that mold that the 97% of people don't do.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to see that now with, my extended friend group, the people that I grew up, all of us wanted to freelance. All of us wanted to be touring photographers or videographers or whatever. And I'm starting to see people like settle down for that 9-to-5 job, or that, that I guess I'll say more comfortable lifestyle, where they don't have to spend so much time hustling and trying to find the work themselves. Do you have advice for people that are
It's the path of least resistance, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
Yeah. Do you have advice for people that are kind of on the fence about whether they should, give it all up and get a 9-to-5 job, or push through that barrier?
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. I have two pieces of advice. Number one, don't quit your job until you're really comfortable that you can replace your base salary, and that you have a little bit of savings in case, because you're going to have dry spells, right? Even I have dry spells. I have months that are better than others. And the other thing is, don't listen to your friends and family. That's the reason. Honestly, the most successful entrepreneurs, the Elon Musk, the Mark Cubans, all them, they don't listen to people that have 9-to-5 jobs, that don't have the lifestyle that you want to, because if they did, then they would be right up with where they are. I mean, you're only as good as the people that surround you. So it's really important, if you want to be successful, to surround yourself with successful people. That's the reason why I designed the masterclass the way I did, because I just didn't want to give a bunch of videos that you watch and, hope, hey, thanks for buying my videos, good luck. I made it to be a small group cohort where you have access to me and other successful instructors that are making six figures, much more than six figures a year. And they're like, have direct access to the students. So you want to surround yourself with people that you're trying to be like, like a mentor. So that's why I wanted to create a masterclass that was kind of a handheld journey through the final 10-step modules, where at the end you'd be like, yeah, now I have the confidence and I have the access to you guys to build the life that I want to build. So really just ignore the naysayers. My father, I mean, he loves me, I love him. I'm not bad mouthing him, but he's not an entrepreneur. And every time I talk about one of the startups that I have, or the clients that I'm working with, he's like, just get a job. I'm like, I do have a job. I make way more money than I would if I had an 8-to-5 job, So, just forget about the people that do not lead the life that you want to live. And it's not about money. It's about any kind of freedom, whatever makes you happy. So, Kay, in your case, if you want to travel with a band or learn a new instrument, whatever your goals are, whatever you're doing in your life isn't leading towards that goal, you ultimately won't be happy, and you're going to feel at the end of your life that you're missing out on something. So I encourage everybody to really, and this is one of the first exercises that we have in Freelancer Masterclass. Module number 1 is write down the top 3 goals that will make you happy. And you'll be surprised that oftentimes money is not on that list. It's some kind of passion or hobby that somebody has. So then we focus on how you can achieve one or even all 3 of those goals on that list through freelancing.
What were your top 3 goals?
Mine was being a philanthropist, being able to give back, especially to animal charities. Another one was traveling, which now that I have a daughter, kind of put that in the bed for at least a little while. We have many plans on traveling when she's old enough to. And the other one was playing tennis. I'm a competitive tennis player. I want to be able to train and play and travel and play tournaments throughout California and who knows, even beyond. So I wanted that flexibility to be able to do that.
So yeah, that's cool that you said that money's not usually on that list. I don't know if I could say the same. I feel like money is a very important thing because it's been instilled in me by my father, So I think it's more of a fear-based thing, but I still think that would probably be on my goal list.
Yeah. And it should be. I mean, look, money, people think, oh, yeah, you want money, it's a bad thing. It's not. If money's on your list, that's perfectly fine. So don't think that it's like a bad thing by any means.
So how did you find the other, like, I'll call them mentors because that's what they are. How did you find the other mentors for your masterclass?
Yeah, so I had a large Rolodex of freelancers that I knew were successful to start. And then I started looking at Upwork, some of the top rated ones that I could find, the ones that were best reviewed. and I looked at some of the skill sets that I needed, some of the classes I needed fulfilled. I'm not an expert at everything. There's some courses on freelancing that I couldn't speak about. For example, insurance, and then another one was taxes. Like, I don't touch taxes with a 10-foot pole, so I wanted like a great CPA, bookkeeper, freelancer. So I just went ahead, and if they weren't in my Rolodex network that I knew, I went on Upwork and I found them.
That's awesome. Yeah, you never know. Like, if you guys have a profile on Upwork, you never know what could happen, or even LinkedIn, wherever, whatever it is, social media in general. Like, if you have your stuff out there, like, people can find you and they might get you to be a part of these courses and things like this. So yeah, make yourself an asset, everybody listening out there. Talk about that a little bit, being an asset.
Yeah, look, it all depends. It all goes by being an asset to your clients, right? So if you can, actually, let me give you the statistics. Keeping an existing client is 19 times easier than finding a new one. So it's all about being an asset to your existing clients. You want to bring in the clients that are the most ideal for you, whether it's a certain monthly fee or it's an hourly rate or it's a certain value you provide. If you could bring in your ideal client and form a great relationship with them, you really don't need that many clients to be a successful freelancer. I know some freelancers that have less than 6 clients, and they've kept these clients for years. And this person's making over $250,000 a year, and this is just one example. And they just work their own hours, and they have their clients they love, and there's no way those clients are getting rid of that person because they provide such great value. So you really need to find out what your best skill set is, your passion, and what you can serve to your clients, and that's your asset. And then you just go out and you find those clients will hire you, whether it's on LinkedIn or Upwork or maybe even offline, maybe in your local community. There's somebody who does some great work for restaurants in the next county over than me, and he makes a great living doing restaurant marketing, and he has a couple dozen restaurants he works with, and that's his clientele, and he knows exactly what he does. And he does local reviews and reputation management for restaurants, and they love him, and they pay him a good amount of money to do it.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that there's so many different types of marketing jobs out there, and there's so many little like niches in the marketing world. For somebody that's trying to launch their own course, do you have tips for them? Like, how did you make the videos? Like, what are the videos like? Did you have a teleprompter? Like, what's the course like as far as like logistically speaking?
Yeah, I didn't have a teleprompter. It's all loom.com screen share videos. There's a video of me in the corner and the other instructors talking through various presentations. And then there's assets and stuff. But the biggest tip I can give for you is people typically go to YouTube right now to watch courses, right? Video courses. The thing that separates the paid courses from scattered YouTube videos is structure. It's like, is there, step-by-step structure on how you learn from beginning to end, and then access to certain people, right? You can just search various keywords all day on YouTube and see scattered and random videos on that topic, or you can sign up for a course like Freelancer Masterclass, for example, where it's really everything you need to know in a structured step-by-step course. That's where your value comes in, and be able to create a price around that.
Do you also put stuff on YouTube?
I do, yeah, 3 times a week.
Wow. Okay, so you're doing new content every week. You have this ongoing course, and you also have a podcast, right? Talk about the podcast and what you talk about on there.
I do, yeah. The podcast, yeah, twice a week. It's called Freelancer School. It's pretty new. We've had it for about 2 months now, and it's all meant to, of course, draw leads and get organic presence online to my masterclass. We don't go through anything step by step in this content, but it does provide very helpful information on. And the way we get our content is usually from questions we find on Quora, Quora.com, the question and answer site, or our customers will ask us, or we'll have a comment in our YouTube video that says, "Hey, Mike, can you explain this?" And either if I don't know the answer, I'll go out and ask one of my lead instructors to do a video on it, or I'll just answer it myself.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're taking the questions from your audience and using Quora. I never even thought about that. I write blogs about, abandoned places that I explore, and I use my photos, and I make a whole nice little blog on my website. But yeah, using Quora, I didn't even think about doing that. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, you just gotta, I was just thinking one day, is like, how do I know what questions people have out there? There's websites called like answertheweb.com where you can I think that's the name of it, where you can type in a search bar and it'll keyword and it'll give you all the questions related to it. But I mean, in real time, if I wanted to see what people were asking, I would go to Quora.com. I'd set up some alerts. And I'd also, even better, I'd go to deepwatch.net. It's deep-watch.net. And they do deep searches into Quora and other question and answer sites, and they'll deliver these alerts right to your inbox. So every day I'll just check my inbox. I'll see what questions people are asking about freelancing. I'll answer them on Quora, and then I'll make a video about it. So those are questions I know that are in demand because people are actually asking about them at the time that I'm answering them. So it's not like a question that's like 5 years old or anything. There are people out there right now wondering what those answers are. Answers to the questions. And I'll tell you that a lot of them don't make sense. A lot of them are like, how do you spell freelancer? It's like, seriously, that's a question. But you gotta weed through the garbage. But there are some every single day, some good ones that just act as inspiration for podcasts and YouTube videos.
Wow, it's literally like them telling you what content to make. That's amazing. You're getting like a look behind this veil. I'm gonna start doing that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. There's so many things I know now that I wish I knew. I would say the biggest thing is know who your ideal client is, because so many freelancers, especially hungry and young ones, they'll go in and they'll just accept any kind of client that would be willing to give them money. But that is just a recipe for disaster, and you're going to wind up finding that you don't like freelancing as much as you thought. Really find out what niche you want to work with, and a niche could be an industry. It could be an industry within an industry. It doesn't even have to be an industry. Like, I don't even work in a particular industry as a marketer, but I know what clients I work best with. I work best with recently funded, investor-funded companies between 5 and 10 employees that have a certain amount of revenue every year. Mostly internet-based companies. Like, that's my ideal client. So you might think, well, Mike, why are you turning down money? Well, because if you keep focused on your ideal client and know what your niche is and who you best serve value, one, you're going to get more money per hour. And two, you're going to be much happier working with those clients than you would just some random person in some random industry or niche that you didn't originally thought of.
And do you have any final advice for people out there that want to get into marketing, that want to learn a little bit more?
I mean, I would say don't so much focus on the marketing, focus on freelancing, focus on understanding how to be a good freelancer. And if you want to learn marketing, I just had somebody email me yesterday from India actually saying, Mike, I really want to learn digital marketing. Where do I go? Honestly, just pick a part of marketing that sounds great to you and go to Udemy and sign up for a course. Those courses are like $10. I learned how to balance I learned P&L and balance sheets on Udemy for $10, and it was like 30 videos, and it was awesome. By the end, I really understood finance, and it's added a lot to my skills as an entrepreneur. But if you want to learn a particular topic, go to Udemy, go to teachables.com, go to Skillshare, one of those sites. But learn how to be a freelancer first, because if you don't understand how to bring in clients, how to manage clients, it doesn't matter how good you are in your skill set. You're not going to go very far unless you learn the idiosyncrasies of how to be a great freelancer.
Amazing. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Plug your social media, where people can find you.
Sure. Go to any social media site and type in Freelancer Masterclass. You'll find us, especially YouTube. We're most active on YouTube. Check us out on iTunes, Freelancer School. And then the big thing is freelancermasterclass.com.
All right, guys, that was my podcast with Mike Volkin from Freelancer Masterclass and Freelance School. I appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking to everybody about marketing, about everything it is that you do and how you give back. And I seriously appreciate that you are giving so much free content to people, and you really want people to live their best life and just love the journey that they're on. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor, give it a rating. I would like to know how you felt about it. How do you feel about this podcast overall? Leave some feedback so other people that are looking for podcasts might come across your feedback and give this podcast a chance. The more you guys support the podcast, the better it will do. And hey, we're looking for sponsors, so if you want to sponsor the podcast, let me know. Reach out. Thank you guys for listening to another week of Project Freelance. I will talk to you next time. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out and go create something.